Chairperson of TransNamib Board of Directors, Paul Smith, says the company is facing an acute shortage of locomotives, hence the need to rebuild the old fleet. In 2014, TransNamib bought the unreliable locomotives from Ziyang Locomotive Works and China North Railways for about $42 million. However, due to unsafe nature as a result of faulty braking systems and poor engine capacity, TransNamib resolved to sell about 4 of the locomotives. Smith says the locomotives also failed to meet the required life expectancy of at least 50 years, as they only lasted for 10 years.
Concerns is the braking system, the control system, or whatever. Currently, or they've finished it now, Transnet in South Africa have rebuilt it for us, one of these Chinese locomotives. And we will receive it within the near future, and then we will test it. That will also give us indication whether it's worthwhile to rebuild or to buy new locomotives.
About $30 million is needed for a single locomotive to be refurbished. One new locomotive costs about $60 million and have a lifespan of about 20 years. He says the old locomotives frequently require technological upgrades, spare parts, which are in dire shortage, and operate using generators as opposed to alternators or fuel. In February this year, Acting Chief Executive Officer of TransNamib, Hippie Chivikwa, says the replacement of their aging rolling stock is critical for Namibia to become a regional logistic hub. Recently, TransNamib procured a new fleet of 6 locomotives valued at $360 million, 90 sulfuric acid tankers for $150 million, and reach stackers or bulk material handlers for about $14 million, which according to Chivikwa is commendable but not enough in terms of modernizing their stock. It is against this background that Namibia must replace their aging locomotives, railway lines with a modern, cost-efficient and durable fleet of locomotives.
We need to break even, and even if we make a profit in year 2 or 3, we will need that profit to recapitalize the company instead of paying dividends to the government. Otherwise, government as a shareholder have to put money into the company. It doesn't make sense. So you need that profits first to recapitalize your company, and then when you are, because restructuring is not only about people, it's also about equipment. It's also common knowledge that our equipment is very old. Not only our rolling stock, but also our rail infrastructure, the railway lines. It has to be restructured and refurbished, and that will take time because the quality of the railway lines also determine the quality of our service. They are connected to one another. So it will be, it's a difficult process and expensive exercise that we have to go through to refurbish the company, re-equip the company, but also to refurbish, to re-equip our railway line to be competitive at the end of the day.
TransNamib also requested to assist the company with an additional bailout of $360 million during the first quarter of the 2017-2018 financial year. The parastatal also owes the Chinese government about $450 million in unpaid debt incurred in recent years.
That's why government has to get involved and invest money into it. In saying that, all over the world, governments are involved in financing the rehabilitation, the upgrading, or whatever you want to call it, of rail infrastructure. It once again, it's a partnership between government and TransNamib to upgrade our railway infrastructure. Now, my personal views, and that is part of our proposals from our side to government, is to bring the private sector also in on the railway system. I personally don't believe, that government has the funds to pay for all the cost in upgrading the railway infrastructure. But on the other hand, the private sector will also not make it. Our turnaround, our freight on the rail is not enough, like in the rest of the world, to pay for the cost of that. But I believe that if we can combine government money with private sector money, it will become an economic viable option. So to bring in the private sector to help us to bring in money, contractors, rehabilitating the railway line, but they will not be paid. They have to bring in their own money, and they will be paid as you use the line afterwards. And you give them a concession, say, of 30 years to maintain the railway line. Then you are assured of a proper job when they refurbish or rebuild the railway line, and also the maintenance of it. Because if they're not going to do it, they're going to lose their money. They will not get their money back. So I believe it's a win-win, exercise or opportunity at the end of the day between government, the private sector, and ourselves as from TransNamib side. So from our side, the moment when a railway line, when a section of a railway line has been refurbished or rebuilt, we will have to pay a mass distance charge like the trucks on the road, say the similar tariffs as on the rate sector per ton kilometer, as well as the fuel levy. That's also part of our proposals. The fuel levy on the roads that's been used to rebuild, whatever, maintain the roads, the same will happen. The fuel that we use on the railway line will also go into that fund and will not be for TransNamib expenses, but for the rail maintenance expenses and the operation of the rail maintenance. So that is part of our proposals to the government, that we should look into these opportunities and work together, to make it work.
The Public-Private Partnership Bill is expected to be enacted by the 1st of April this year in an effort to guide contracts on how private entities will fund public infrastructure and public services. TransNamib plans to reinvest funds procured from fuel used for locomotives into the rehabilitation of the railway lines, as opposed to diverting such funds to unspecified operational expenses.